to your favorite nerdy, unhinged podcast. Joining us today is Sirius Black, my cat.
And my boyfriend.
I think and your boyfriend. He just blocked my entire thing. It was amazing. He's gonna knock the camera down. He's so heavy. Okay, so I'm the face of FanCorner, Rachel. And as always, we have our beautiful, lovely co-host, Jalaire.
Yay!
Jalaire, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Me too. I'm so excited for this new vision that we have.
Totally.
Like this new book club thing. But then today, what we're going to be talking about as the main topic, we're going to be talking about the Mirror of Erisid. And we're going to get deep into it, the lore behind it, what it shows us about characters, and how we can use it in our own muggle lives.
Totally.
To, like, heal.
Exactly. Because we could all use a little bit of that right now.
For sure. And we're going to do that with a few other magical objects as our next few episodes, like broken up.
It's going to be a new series, like mini-series, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really excited about it. We were doing a bunch of research before this, and we realized, we need to split them into each, one episode of their own.
Yeah, it was so funny. We were trying to do Boggarts, Dementors, Patronuses, and Mirror of Erisid, and it was
And then it's we could talk for 4 hours and no one needs to hear us for 4 hours.
We're very guilty of doing that, where we'll take on too big of a topic. So I'm glad that we pared down, and it's such an exciting theme.
Yeah, and it's something that, the listeners can look forward to.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, let's get into our high mids.
Totally.
Actually, first, let's say this first.
Okay.
I just want to say, we're very aware of what's going on in the world right now. And while this is a space to sort of escape from that is in part, why we kind of struggled to figure out what we were going to talk about.
Totally.
Because talking about October 31st and Lord Voldemort,
it was not the time or
not
place.
the time for that, not appropriate. And this is no shade to creators that are still doing that.
Yeah.
But we just really wanted to be hyper aware of what's going on in the world right now. So we are aware of it, and it's truly terrible.
Yeah, of course.
But now that we have that out of the way, let's get into our high mids.
Of course. Okay.
So Jalaire, tell me, what is your mid for today?
Oh my gosh, we're switching it up.
Well, I just said depressing stuff, so
That's
it felt
fair.
kind of weird to be what's your high?
Totally, it makes sense. My mid is kind of it's very silly, but my mid is that spooky season's over.
Aww.
Because October is my favorite month, and
I low-key, ironically, I'm over here with my gingerbread. I'm let's go. I'm not normally quite this aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the air and TikTok content, but I've been cool, Christmas, except I haven't been able to decorate yet. But
yeah, of course. No, Rachel was sending me TikToks with cute ideas on how to decorate your spaces, and I was like, oh, this is cute. So it makes me excited to do those things, But fall, Halloween time is my favorite time of year. I do love Christmas as a close second, but I love all the fun things about fall.
Yeah.
And, a little sad it's over.
All the leaves have really fallen in the last week for us, and that was hard for me.
Same.
Because we're in that in-between time where, there's not beautiful snow on the trees. It just is here's this barren wasteland. I'm
Totally. And also it dropped 20 degrees in the last week as well. So now it's oh, we're in winter now.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm shivering.
Yeah, Rachel's cold all the time now.
Yeah.
I have to wear my ski coat all the time, and I can't just wear cute sweaters by themselves or, whatever anymore.
Totally.
Fashion's got to change. So I'm going to miss that. It always is too short.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But we're going to get so into Christmas that it's okay.
Totally. So then, Rachel, what is your mid?
So my mid is actually that I'm injured. So that's why my house is not decorated yet for Christmas. To be fair, normally I'm not a November 1st girly.
Yeah.
I probably would have done it today.
Okay.
So Halloween wasn't yeeted out the door, but it was
Yeah.
I injured my knee a few weeks ago hiking. And so I'm on week 3 now, And with the kind of sprain that I have, it probably will take 4 to 6 weeks to heal, to the point where I can just do daily activities, not even like my exercises. And it's been really emotional. So next week I have to, one of my best friends is getting married in LA. And I had to come to the realization that my plans had to change on the trip. I could no longer go to Universal Hollywood and Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Because I can't like stand long enough to like not cry in a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Much less walk through a park.
Totally.
And then we also came to the realization that we should probably put me in a wheelchair for the airport, just because it's so much walking.
Yeah.
Because I can walk for a little bit, but not very much before I'm like KO'd.
Yeah.
And I need to be okay for this wedding. And so it's been like weirdly emotional for me. Because like I'm afraid of like what people's perceptions are, and like I know that's not fair, but I've seen how people treat people they don't think should be in wheelchairs.
Totally.
And like just needing people's help to like do stuff. Like
it's always hard to ask for help when you're like an independent person.
It is. And I'm a bouncy person.
Yeah.
Like I'm pacing all the time, I'm jumping up and down. And instead, like, even when you came over today, we prepped together for these, and we do, like, dinner. I couldn't cook for us or anything. Like, Jalea picked us up stuff, and then, you know, she was kind enough to really help me, like as we're setting up the table to do this, you know, I'm hobbling around. Do you know? Like, it's a very slow process, and so Jalea really had to step in, and that's really vulnerable, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of hard.
But I love you.
I love you too. I'm glad I'm not crying. This is the first day I haven't cried about it in like 4 days. So we're getting better.
You're progressing, and that's good. So I'm sure a lot of people relate.
Yeah.
Too. So, but it doesn't make it any less scary or vulnerable or hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What's your high?
Ooh. My high was 2 weeks ago was Anime Bonsai, which is an anime convention in Utah. It's a way smaller convention than FanX.
Right.
And so it feels more of like there's a sense of community, and people are really kind to each other there. I feel like people are more like just kind and understanding and like positive. Not saying like people aren't like that at FanX, but it's just like it's a smaller convention, so you get that kind of feel easier.
You know more of them.
Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense. I feel like that's how LeakyCon is too, so I get it.
Yeah. And so like a lot of us that go, I've been going for 10 years. And so a lot of people have been going just as long, and so you kind of start to recognize the same people and like their cosplays, and even if you're not like friends with them, there's something comforting in just recognizing people that you see there physically every year. And so one of the highlights for me this year was, well, it's a highlight every year. My friends and I sell our stuff in a secondhand sale that they do at Anime Bonsai, which is really great because it's a way for like nerdy people to just sell their goods that they're like, I don't need this anymore, you know? So it's like the fun recycling. And so
nerdy thrifting.
Exactly, it's nerdy thrifting. And so my friends and I have been doing it the last few years, and we make it really fun for ourselves and make like a playlist of music to play with a speaker. And this year we upgraded and got tablecloths to put on our table.
Hey, that's better than we're doing. Yeah. This is actually a blanket, so.
Yeah. I mean, it was like dollar store, like party, like you use once and toss kind of things, but still, you know, in the colors of the convention, which are purple and green. And like, you know, we have memes on the table. We have our Venmo codes on the table. We are prepared. We're the most like professional, air quotes, like kind of table there.
Do you take Square Reader?
We've thought about doing that next year.
You should.
Because a lot of people are like, hey,
I don't
can
like
I use
Venmo
a card?
people.
And yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, can I use a card? And I'm like, we have Venmo or cash. Like literally that's our options. But I think because we end up was our 3rd year in a row doing it, maybe we'll upgrade to using Square next year.
Yeah, no, I think you should, especially because if you have a newer iPhone, tech hack for everybody. If you have a newer iPhone, you can accept tap to pay on an iPhone.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, like and so you would like have like an account with Square or whoever, and it would like they tap on your phone. It's like the coolest thing.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Actually my Square Reader was like giving me like the biggest amount of sass of my life. at LeakyCon, and so I had to learn it on the fly, but it was like so easy.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every year we're like, how can we make this better? And like this year we used wagons to like bring all our stuff in. We ended up being ready 40 minutes before they like let people come into the sale, which never happens.
Yeah.
We're usually scrambling, and like I brought like makeshift like shelving units to put like next to the table to have like anime figurines and like bigger things that would take up more space on a table there. And it just was so much fun, and people come to the sale and like they recognize us. They're like, oh, you guys did the memes last year, and like whatever. And it's just so fun. It's
That's
such a
cute.
fun girls weekend with my friends away, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely funner with friends, so I love that.
Totally. And so what is your high, Rachel?
I'm going to consult my notes because I don't remember anything happening in my life. Ooh, okay. I've been playing, this is a little weak, but it's okay, I like it.
Dude, it's okay.
I'm playing the new Mario game, Mario Wonder.
Uh-huh.
It's so good.
Can you tell me what it's about? Because like I knew it was like something that was coming out.
Yeah.
But the only like new Mario thing I know that's coming out is the Princess Peach game.
I didn't know that was, what?
There's a Princess Peach solo game coming out.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I forget
well,
its
first of
name,
all,
but it's
gonna
really
need to
cool.
look into that.
I'm really excited.
So it's, so you know like Mario 3D World or Mario Deluxe where it's like, you know, your levels and you go through little worlds.
Yeah.
So it's that.
Uh-huh.
But you can actually play as Peach, which is pretty new. I think in most of them you can only play as Luigi
And
or Mario.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a very multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. But it's so freaking creative.
Mm.
So like the level play, I was a little worried because I like watched like a playthrough before and I was like, oh, I think this is gonna be too kiddie because like the Yoshi, like I don't remember what it's called, like
The
Yoshi
Yarn
Woolly
World?
World. Yeah, Yarn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it literally looked so childish. Like I tried it, I just couldn't get into it. Right, like the way the mechanics worked for me wasn't it. It felt kiddier.
Yeah.
But this is like, it starts pretty easy, but then it quickly escalates. It has like the traditional gameplay of a Mario, but they have cool new features and like power-ups and things like that
Cool.
that really change how it feels.
Oh, awesome.
And you enter this like weird like Wonder Seed mode
Yeah.
for like a little brief amount of every game, and it completely changes everything, and it's different every level.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, like in one, the piranhas started singing.
What?
I was like, what's happening right now? Like, I could not stop laughing. And so it's always something different. It's so fun. Like, you become a piece of cake,
Oh.
and you're, like, jumping, and you only have so long to get the thing you're trying to get. And, obviously the mechanics are different because you are a piece of cake.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're, like, a large piece of cake. Like, sheet cake, not, like,
Yeah.
little triangle. So it's just so unhinged and fun and whimsical. And I think it's really like revived the franchise.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of something they needed to do a little different, but still keep what makes Mario Mario.
Yeah. So I'm honestly just loving it. And it took out the sexist plot line because every other Mario game that I've ever played, except for Mario 3D World, which again is more multiplayer, most of them, the plot is Peach gets kidnapped.
By Bowser.
We save Peach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even Mario Odyssey, the open world one, that was the plot, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's really tiresome, and we're over it. So
We are over it.
so that was not the plot,
Cool.
and that was really cool.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
You were playing this game when you voice memoed me the other day, right?
yes.
So for everyone listening, the other day Rachel was sending me a voice memo as she does, and I heard stuff in the background, so I thought she was like at the grocery store or something, and then all of a sudden she's like, I died! And like screamed, and I was like, oh shit, she's playing the game, and it was so funny.
I re-listened to it after you were like, that was so funny. I re-listened to it, and I was like, oh, it's even worse than I thought it was. Like, it was just like this pure, like out of nowhere. You can hear the beep, beep, beep as I was doing what I was doing. And then it was like, just scream.
Yeah, I thought the beeps it sounded like a checkout beep, like when you're
I could hear that, no.
You
yeah,
know?
That's funny.
It was really funny. I'm like, oh heck yeah, she's having a Target run. She's feeling good today. Like, nope. But regardless, I'm so glad you're enjoying that game. That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
definitely
I'll have
having
to borrow
fun.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely have to borrow it.
Totally. Or we could play together. Can you play with two people?
Yeah.
too. That'd be fun.
Yeah, you can. So we should do that.
Yeah.
I also own 3D World, so we can play that together too.
Yeah, I haven't played that.
Oh my god, that's like one of the best ones.
Yeah.
I think for multiplayer, it is the best one.
Okay.
Because that's like, if one person dies, it doesn't automatically kill you both.
Oh, that's good.
Which I think is key. Yeah. Because like, I think the Mario games are harder with 2 people in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, because you're trying not to jump on their head.
Yeah,
there's weird things happening.
Totally. It's like when you're playing Smash Bros with too many people and just gets fucking whacked.
Yeah, it gets chaotic.
Fast.
Yeah, no, 3D World's honestly, it's iconic as a multi.
That's awesome, because I haven't actually played many Mario games in my life. So.
Okay, well, we need to fix that.
We do. I mean, the last time we played like Mario Party, we both were like falling asleep.
That was really funny.
It was really funny.
To be fair, it was like 11 p.m. at night.
That's true. We don't
Although
hang
that just
out that
kind of
late
aged
anymore.
us a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Most people our age probably stay up till like, I don't know, 2 a.m. and we're like, 11, it's bedtime.
Yeah, no, we're literally like 9 p.m.
It's like time to leave.
Time to go home.
Hello. Okay, well, let's get into the main topic.
Totally.
This is so exciting. Okay. So today's topic is, as a reminder, Mirror of Erisid. So let's start with just like it in the book and your reactions in the book.
Specifically talking about book things.
Yes, we will not be mentioning any movie specific things. Obviously there are differences, and we won't be talking about that because, as a reminder, the actors are still on strike, and their union has asked that creators not be talking about it. Mm-hmm. And we're never perfect. We have definitely fucked this up, actually. On one of our episodes, we fucked it up bad. But
it's something we always try to keep in mind.
Yeah. So, book version. But yeah, we're really excited.
It's better because it's the source material.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it yeah, okay, we won't get into why it's so much better, but it is, yeah.
But yes, we're working with the real source material too,
yes.
Which makes it a little more fun to be a little more philosophical, and it's like, this is the source material. This is like, what's your source? The book.
Yeah, no, totally.
You know?
So what comes to your mind when we think of like the Mirror of Erisid?
Oh, you know, it may be a little weird, but the first word that came to my mind was hope.
No, I don't think that's weird at all.
Yeah, because
I think that is kind of what it is.
Yeah, because I think of hope when I think of the Mirror of Erisid, because it could be good, it could be bad, depending on the person, how you perceive it and view it. But I feel like it's a hopeful thing, like tool and thing you could like. If we all had our own little personal Mirror of Erisid, or at least access to one, right? It would be like a really hopeful thing to look at. And I think of it in terms of like, if I was feeling lost in life and like needed direction or help and felt like I was in darkness, so to speak, I feel like that would be kind of a beacon of hope to help me figure out what my hopes and desires are.
So yeah, the Mirror of Erisid, the thing is, it shows your innermost heart desire, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you were Albus Dumbledore says, if you were a completely happy man, you would just see yourself in the mirror.
Totally.
And so I think that hope is such a good indication of, I think what you would see really shows you your darkest fears, your darkest problems too. And so, you know, for me, I think this is really well demonstrated when we were rereading the chapters for this. The beginning of the chapter, titled Mirror of Erisid, actually, within the first page, Draco actually has a really mean comment that was purposefully directed actually at Harry. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like talking loudly so people overhear. He's like, I just feel so bad for the kids that have to stay at Hogwarts for the holidays because they're not wanted at home.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that really gets to the crux of Harry's pain at this point in his life. He's never experienced being wanted.
Totally.
Like, kind of with his new little friend group, but we're pretty new in that.
Yeah, it's still very fresh. It's very new. But for the first, 11 years of his life with the Dursleys, he was not wanted.
Yeah.
Clearly. It was
not wanted, not loved.
Wanted.
And that level of pain is just so deep. And so I think that then makes even more sense and makes it hurt more that when he does come across the mirror, he sees his parents, who he did not recognize at first. And I think that that's something that's really harrowing about this too, is like, he's like, wait, who are these people at first?
Yeah, and I totally forgot that when we were reading that, because he sees not just his parents, but he sees his extended family.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And he only knows this because he starts to be like, wait, she has eyes that look just like mine.
Yeah, or like with James, he's like, oh, his hair's kind of like messed up like mine and sticks up. And then like, notice like, oh, this older guy that we could, you know, infer as like a grandfather probably like has my knobby knees.
Yeah.
You know, and
which I think really strikes me. He's never seen a photograph at this point of his parents before.
Yeah.
He had to piece that together looking in the mirror.
Dude, which is so wild.
It is wild. I know the Dursleys hate, obviously, James and Lily, but that's next level.
No, seriously.
That there's no pictures of Lily as a child in that home.
Totally. And also it's kind of wild to think that, like, after entering the wizarding world for how famous he is and, like, learns how famous he is, that he hasn't seen any photos of his parents.
That's a really good point.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows who they looked like, what they looked like, and who they were, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
It is really sad.
Because he has to learn about them through, like, other people, which, like, that makes sense, but it's still sad that he never saw them until this moment.
Yeah. Something I think a lot about with this moment, too, is I circle back constantly to the fact that, you know, because he reaches and he puts his hand on the mirror, hoping he can fall through it. And it wasn't until he hears a sound somewhere in the castle that he's like, oh, I need to get back to bed. Like, it breaks him out of this sort of trance that he's in. Mm-hmm. And he brings Ron back the next night. Mm-hmm. But he's just getting lost in this. But I think something that really hits me a lot is this memory is the only memory that is powerful enough for him to conjure a Patronus in the third book. Mm-hmm. You know, Remus asked him, what were you thinking about when they were practicing? And he's like, oh, I was thinking of, you know, when I caught the snitch. And Remus is like, well, that's not powerful enough, you know? And so I think something that really strikes me about this is the first time, and I mean, we're inferring at this point, but I think that the reason it's a powerful enough memory, even though, you know, Harry himself says it's not exactly happy. Yeah. It's like, it's pain too. Yeah. Just like how Lily was smiling while she looked at him, but she was crying too. Mm-hmm. And so I like to think that it's because it's probably the first time in his life, even though it's kind of fake, that he's experienced feeling loved. Mm-hmm. Because by seeing his family and their reaction to him, who, he didn't even know what they looked like before, I think it really hits him that he was loved by these people. Because he's heard that they, at this point now, he recently learned that they sacrificed to save him and things like that. Mm-hmm. But seeing them, I think, really brings it to life for him in a visceral way. Totally. That feeling of feeling wanted and loved. And so that, I don't know, that just really gives me chills to think about.
Totally. I was feeling like the chills and very emotional when you're talking about that. Like, reading this, like, chapter again as prep, like, it got me very emotional because, like, we just had Halloween. Yeah. Which is an emotional, you know, tragic event in the events of the book. And, like, with everything going on, it got me more emotional about, like, feeling loved and having, like, I mean, Harry doesn't have them as a physical support group, but, like, their legacy and all the people they touched become his love and support group. Right. And, like, that's so powerful. Yeah. And I think they do make him feel loved from the grave. Totally. With this mirror moment, or, like, when the wands rebound in 4 and their spirits come out and talk to him. Yeah. Obviously, with the resurrection stone, I think they couldn't always show it. Mm-hmm. And so in some ways it's come out through these magical means. Yeah. But their love has very much been there for Harry once he enters the magical world. Uh-huh. And I think that that's a really interesting thing to think about too, is, like, maybe in the worlds that we're in, talking like it's actually real, but you know, it took him being in the magical world to be able to feel that that love, because it takes a little bit extra. Totally. And I mean, he was completely removed from it, and so, like, growing up and whatnot, so it kind of makes sense that, like, the world his family, like, his parents were a part of is, like, what gives him all those emotions. Yeah. It just sucks that he had to wait till he had to go to school to feel that. Definitely super effed. Yeah. But I'm glad he had this moment. I'm glad he found this tool. And I think it's important that he had those 3 nights with the mirror before Dumbledore is, like, Yeah,
Bro.
Dumbledore's like, hey, no.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it is one of the most powerful moments of his life still.
Totally. And it's like a huge, like, catalyst, not just for, like, you know, the Patronus thing, which is a big deal, but I feel like it was just a huge kind of early turning point for Harry in, like, so many ways.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, you know, for a kid who had never felt secure, this is probably one of the first times he had felt securely attached.
Totally.
And so I think that memory probably got him through a lot of what ends up happening going forward.
100%.
So Ron then comes in.
Yeah.
And Ron sees something very different.
100%. He ends up seeing, like, himself being, like, head boy, Quidditch captain, all these, like, self-accomplishments. Like, no one else is there.
Right.
With him in the mirror.
Which we feel bad for Harry, because, like, Harry thought he was gonna, like, he was showing Ron his parents.
Yeah, which, like, that's so exciting to be like, hey, look, this is my family, you know? And then finding out that that's not what happens, you know? It's just so sad. And then, like, Ron says, do you think this mirror shows the future? And Harry says, how can it? All my family are dead.
Yeah. And then they fight over who gets to be in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, actually I think this is one of, like, Harry is so known for his sass, but I actually love what he says to Ron. Because Ron's like, well, you got it all last night. And, like, he's like, it's my parents. Like, get out of the way. Like,
literally.
You're just seeing nothing. Like,
it's so funny because the quote is, you're only holding the Quidditch cup. What's interesting about that? I want to see my parents.
Yeah.
And then Ron's like, don't push me. And Harry pushes him out of the way.
Yeah. Iconic. Classic sassy Harry.
Yeah.
So love that.
Yeah.
But actually, you know what was interesting? And I don't know that I knew that I thought this until we were prepping today. But I have some, like, hot takes, I feel like, about what Ron sees.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
So Dumbledore actually, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Dumbledore himself says later, you know, when he runs into Harry there, he says, you know, Ronald, who's always been overshadowed by his other siblings, sees himself in a position where he's getting attention. So we kind of already have that hint of that's why he sees it. But it kind of got me thinking that, like, what we desire most is often opposite of what we really have.
Yeah.
So, like, Harry never had love, so of course that makes sense. Ron has love, but, okay, and this is where it gets hot, takey.
Yeah.
I didn't know I would use this word to describe Ron. And this is going to be way more grace than we have ever given him on this show.
I'm like, we haven't given him much.
We don't give him much. It seems frivolous, right? Because, like you said, like, there's no one else as part of it.
Yeah.
It's the Quidditch Cup.
It almost comes off as, like, selfish.
It totally does. It comes off as very Slytherin. Very, like, and I don't mean that in the mean way.
Yeah, totally.
I just mean, like, it's all just, like, me.
Prideful.
Yeah,
you know.
what I can accomplish, and, like, a ridiculous amount of accomplishments. House Cup and Quidditch Cup is what he describes. Both. And Quidditch Captain.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, could more be on the screen? Do you know what I mean? Do you also want to be Prime Minister in this one
sure,
fantasy?
Let's throw that in there.
Yeah, youngest one ever. Like, it's getting out of control. But it made me really be thinking about this feeling of overshadowed he has. And that can kind of just feel like he's being overdramatic. But Ron literally is constantly described as only having, like, third-hand used, not second-hand used, like, third-hand used things from multiple brothers. Like, doesn't have his own wand at this point.
Yeah.
Doesn't have his own pet.
Yeah.
Doesn't have his own anything. And, like, he also mentions, like, and I'm not trying to be shady too much at Molly, but also I kind of mean what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So I shouldn't have just mitigated it.
Yeah.
I think Ron experienced emotional neglect as a child.
Totally. I can believe that, honestly.
Obviously not to the level of Harry.
Yeah, no.
But I think the Weasleys had too many children to care for.
Totally.
And Ron was the unfortunate one that didn't get the attention. I think he was viewed as not needing the attention.
Yeah.
And in his mind, having the accomplishments would make him finally worthy of Molly's love.
100%. And that's so sad.
When I wrote neglect, I actually was like, oh no, it hurts.
No, it hurts. But, like, 100% makes sense, because after him is Ginny, so it's like, oh, the only daughter, so of course she gets attention, right?
Totally different.
You know?
And she almost dies her first year, which I think adds to that feeling of attention.
Totally. It's like, oh, she almost died? Oh, shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like, the other brothers are, like, all doing amazing things and have all these things, and Ron's kind of like, what can I bring to the
And Fred and George get attention because they're so bad.
Yeah. I mean, they're, like, breaking the mold.
Yeah.
You know? And they start their own business and just go off the walls from what the traditional, like, route of, like, a Hogwarts student would be.
Yeah. Whereas Ron seems like he doesn't get attention because he's not bad like the Weasleys twins.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need that sort of, like, Molly screaming at him energy. But he's also, not a high accomplishment. And he's not the one girl. I think he's the neglected child.
100%.
They had too many to give all of them attention.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, when is the only time that we see Ron get a lot of attention from Molly?
I'm sure once you say it, I'll be like, duh. But literally my mind is blank.
So I'm fairly confident there might be another example. But I'm fairly confident, aside from the time she screamed at him in the second book.
Yeah, because, I mean, I remember that, but I wouldn't say that's, like, a positive.
No, it's definitely not positive. Definitely not positive. And also, they left him with a broken wand as a punishment, which is...
whack.
Definitely abusive.
Yeah.
Because he, multiple times, almost got really hurt from that.
Totally.
But, is when he becomes a prefect in his fifth year.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's, what do you want for dinner, Ron? And... what gift can I give you, Ron?
Yeah.
And, like,
don't they get him new books, too?
I don't remember the new books, but she asked what he wants, and he wanted a new broom.
Yeah.
So we now know he had secretly been wanting to be on the Quidditch team for some time.
Right.
But, like, the equipment was an issue for him. And instead of at any point feeling safe enough to tell his parents that sooner, he only gets it because he now deserved love. He was now worthy of love.
Yeah. Because he checked a box for Molly's, like, checklist of what my kids should be.
Yep. Which is effed, honestly.
Totally.
And I know we can love Molly while also saying, like, this was really messed up. And I think it really messed Ron up. And honestly, now that I view him in this lens, like, I feel like he's making a lot more sense to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think he was emotionally neglected, which is a type of abuse.
100%.
Yeah.
And it also, it's like, you know, Harry and Ron become friends, like, right off the bat. But maybe they, you know, we probably don't, like, we don't see it necessarily, like, in the pages of the book. But I would like to believe that they have some sort of bonding because of neglect, you know? Even though it is, like, in different forms.
Right.
But, like, a shared bond because of those things to a degree.
I think that's an interesting one, because I think in Harry's POV, which is totally valid, because they are children, and that's an important thing to note. Because we shouldn't be comparing trauma. Just because Harry's is worse does not make it more valid.
Yeah.
But, you know, in Harry's POV, like, you know, it happens in this moment, which, to be fair, until you dig deep into what that Mirror of Erisid moment is, it does just feel frivolous.
Totally.
But we see it multiple times where Harry's just like, Molly loves, like, shut up. You have a mom who makes you a sandwich. Even if it's
makes you
the
a
kind
sweater,
you hate.
even though you hate it every year.
Even though she doesn't listen to what you actually like, she forgets he hates corned beef, whatever. For Harry, a lot of the complaints Ron has probably is just, like, really fucking annoying.
Totally.
And which is valid, but so I actually don't think they probably bond. And so I think in some ways,
like,
it means Ron
wish list, I would hope.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe as they grow up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like older years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, because that is, like, a more adult thing to, like, bond over, I would feel. But, like, I guess that's just a wish list for me.
No, that makes sense. I get it. Okay, so what do you think of Dumbledore's moment with Harry in the mirror?
I feel like it's one of the early... It's not, like, the first interaction... Is it really, like, the first, like, true interaction Harry's had with Dumbledore? At this point. Like, he knows who Dumbledore is.
Right.
But
it's one of the first, because, you know, Dumbledore sends him the invisibility cloak, but I don't think Harry knows
with him.
that it's Dumbledore yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I feel like rereading it, it was really emotional to me because it was like this mentor-mentee kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, of just Dumbledore being this wise old person being like, Harry, these are what, like, this is what this mirror is, and is being like a teacher in that way, and it's like giving him a warning. And then also is like, it's leaving. This mirror is being moved. And like, as I'm just realizing this is probably like the first time they've interacted like physically, truly, I feel like that's a huge thing too.
Yeah, so I think now we don't know this.
Yeah.
So, but we do, it's conjecture. However, Dumbledore mentions, like, he knows very specific things, like what Ron saw in the Mirror of Erisid.
Yeah, because he says, like, I don't need a cloak to be invisible.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm fabulous, it's fine. But so, you could kind of posit that potentially he was there both nights that Harry was there.
Totally.
But invisible.
And it makes me wonder how often Dumbledore has looked in the mirror.
Oh, yeah, that's totally fair. My headcanon, though, is I honestly... Serious? Get out of frame. Okay. Move. We're just having travesty here for those on Spotify. Sirius Black, one of my cats, was just like, boom, hit the cameras over.
What a...
Good times.
Serious? Can you not right now? Okay, that's
better. That's fine. Okay. What was I saying? So my headcanon is actually that Dumbledore, more than... I have heard that before, that maybe it was there because Dumbledore wanted to look upon it. I've definitely heard that before. A lot of us think it could be like Ariana, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably some truth to that. But I also wonder, because where the mirror ends up, obviously, is part of the trials to get to the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, it's the last one.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't help but wonder if it was supposed to be moved sooner, because I would imagine they're moving that piece in at night.
Yep.
Because the students aren't around. Obviously, we're keeping this very top secret.
Of course.
I wonder if Harry came upon it, like it was left there the 3 nights that it was, so that Harry could experience that. Like it might have supposed, in my mind, I wonder if it was supposed to be moved that first night, but Harry came upon it. Because I don't think anyone else would know that it was being put there except Dumbledore because of what it was. Everyone was keeping their trial secret.
Totally. I actually really like that.
I know, right?
That's a very sweet idea if, like, he saw Harry experience it once and was, like, kept it around for 2 more days.
Yep. And I think, too, he saw Harry's...
so emotional.
I know! I'm sorry. I made me emotional when I came up with it.
Dude, this episode is just going to be emotional, but, like, in the best way.
Yeah. So I just, obviously it's such a powerful memory now for Harry, seeing his parents. But we also see how he starts to get kind of obsessive with it.
Yeah, like,
he
very
pushes
fast.
Ron. Okay, so the sass was amazing.
Dude, it was.
No shade at the
but
sass.
Harry is like, I want to see my family. Get the fuck out.
And, like, that's not necessarily, like, Harry to actually push. The sass was totally Harry. The push wasn't. And then we see, like, when he comes in that second night, or the third night, Dumbledore startles him. Because he didn't see him there. And he says that. And Dumbledore's like, isn't it amazing how invisible can make us so blind? And so even Harry did have on the invisibility cloak until he was, like, right in front of it. But he wasn't paying attention to anything. He's zeroed in on that mirror because he's starting to get into that obsessiveness. Yeah. Which is why we get to the quote, it's better to not dwell on dreams and to live. And I think he needed that time with the mirror, but Harry couldn't have much more. More wasn't going to be helpful. More was just going to be obsessive.
Totally.
And I think Dumbledore gave him that time. That's my headcanon.
Totally, I love that. And I'm, like, looking again at the book, because Dumbledore tells him, it shows nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts, and he's so desperate to know his family.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why he'd be obsessed with seeing his family.
Yeah, I think that's something interesting about the mirror is, like, we kind of talked about it with Ron, but, like, Quirrell obviously sees something that is legitimately, like, frivolous and selfish. Himself getting the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
And I think Harry, I think whatever your mirror is, whatever you see in it, can say a lot about other issues.
Yeah.
Fears and things missing in your life. Like, it is showing Ron's trauma. The only reason we really are getting it, at least me, the first time I got it, was examining his Mirror of Erisid.
Totally.
And so I think it's almost a tool to understand the characters and ourselves better by what is showing up in the mirror.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like, I mean...
Because there's the why behind it.
Yeah, because, like, as much as I could think about what I most desire, I don't think I would actually know what would appear if I looked in the Mirror of Erisid.
There was a time when I knew, and I think it's very similar to Harry's.
Yeah.
And it is a painful place to be in.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't think it is that anymore.
Oh, good.
Which, at first, I felt like a lot of judgment for myself about, because I was like, oh no, does that mean, like, now what I would see might be frivolous? Like, when I'm just, like, picturing what it could potentially be.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, like, the happiest man in the world would just see himself.
Yeah.
And so now that I have love and, like, stability in my life, and, like, I know I can be loved by friends and family, I don't need that in my mirror anymore.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's a sign of growth.
Yeah. And I mean, in that way, like, it could be used... I'm thinking of it, like, in the therapy context as, like, a tool to face, like, you know, learn those things about yourself that you might not even know, and then grow. And then, like, I like the idea of, like, I mean, it makes sense, but I like the idea that, like, if you looked at the mirror in, like, different points of your life, what you would see would change based on your growth and obviously where you're at.
And hopefully, you know, some of the things you most desire have come true.
Totally.
And so they can be resolved.
Totally. And I think that's so cool, because Harry only sees it once. But how interesting would it be if he saw it, like, post the Wizarding War, or even, like, in book, like, the end of book 6, beginning of book 7, you know, when everything's, like, falling apart.
Yeah, because I think after Sirius dies, he probably would have seen Sirius.
100%.
But yeah, I think at a later point, maybe he saw potentially a future family. Maybe he saw these other things, or maybe he saw himself healed from the trauma he had just gone through after the Wizarding War.
Yeah.
Him and Jenny. Like, I think there definitely is different answers to it. And I think that's a sign of growing. And I actually, totally on therapy tool. I think a lot of these Harry Potter things can actually be used. Like, you know, have you ever heard of those, like, shadow work journals?
No, I have not.
Okay, I don't know. I get ads for them all the time on TikTok. But it's like, you know, looking at your inner child and shit to try to figure out your problems.
Totally.
Now I'm in therapy, so I don't do it quite like that. But, like, you know, a therapy prompt, essentially. I feel like a lot of the stuff in Harry Potter can actually help us become better people.
Totally.
And work through our stuff. And that's okay if you don't know what your Mirror of Erisid would be, because I certainly don't know. And actually, Jalaire brought up a really good point before this of, like, it could potentially, depending on what it is, fuck you up.
Yeah.
It, like, hopefully in a way that's helpful.
Yeah.
But
it could, I feel like Dumbledore's warning about it is that it could do more damage to you than good, especially if you become obsessed with it.
Especially if it's not something attainable.
Totally.
Because what if, now Molly is a good woman.
Yeah.
If Ron had ever gone to her, not that it is the child's responsibility to do this, because it is not.
Yeah.
To be clear, he is 11.
Yeah.
But if at any point Molly had realized from something Ron said or someone else that she was neglecting Ron, she would have changed her actions. I do believe that.
I would believe that too.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't make what happened okay.
No.
But
I do feel like with how we know Molly and how much she, like, does care about her children, there's just so many of them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's the crime.
That is the crime.
And that's a hot take. There were too many kids.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like it's a hot take, but maybe it is in the community. I have no idea. But, like,
I think just generally it's kind of, you know, frowned on to say someone had too many kids.
I guess.
Because it's, like, personal choice. But the problem is what we're seeing with Ron. Because Molly's a good person. Yeah. She wouldn't be doing this on purpose. It's just there's only so much of Molly.
So thin.
But same thing with, like, the money.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, it comes to back, and I think we've talked about this before, like, are they poor?
Yeah.
I don't think they're poor. I think there's just too many children.
Yeah,
and that's not fair to the kids.
Totally. Because, like, Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like with how we know Molly and like how much she does love her kids, if she was told like, hey, this isn't okay, she would fix it.
Right.
And she would do what she could for Ron.
Totally. I agree. I think it's an oversight from being stretched too then.
Totally. And even though it doesn't make it okay, it kind of makes Molly more human.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know? So, and like another thing, I guess like changing directions a little bit. I asked Rachel this question before we started, but I was curious, like, you know, kind of posing it to both of us. Would you, like, at this point in your life, look at the Mirror of Erisid if we were able to?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because depending on what you saw, it could show, like how we were talking about how it kind of shows your trauma maybe too a little bit.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is.
Totally, depending.
So it could put something in the mirror that is your innermost heart desire that you weren't ready to deal with yet.
100%.
And that could suck.
Yeah.
a lot.
Could suck a lot.
A lot. You're like...
It's like when you're being called out on the internet for something that you didn't realize, like, you know, a relatable TikTok or something, you're like, cool. And the comments are like, I didn't mean to get called out right now.
No, yeah.
It would be like that on a grander scale.
So, like, you know, you think even, like, Ron a little bit, like, he wouldn't have used the word neglect or, like, whatever, unloved with his mother. If it had shown it to him in a way where that was more clear, that might have been too painful for him.
Yeah.
At 11.
Yeah.
So, I think it puts you in a really interesting position. I think right now, yes, I would. Because at this point in my life, I've been in therapy for a long time. I'm now currently, consistently, we've done it once or twice. I got weird about it, but we're consistently doing EMDR, which is a trauma form of therapy that's rather brutal.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm more ready to deal with really hard things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I can't sometimes go too deep.
Yeah.
I don't think the Mirror of Erisid would push me there though now. And now I have, and the reason I can do EMDR now and not like go too deep to where I got too triggered one time when we first had started it a year or two ago.
Yeah, I remember.
I just kind of like froze.
Yeah.
I was in my freeze response. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything. It was really hard. Because I was like the age of when something really bad happened to me again. Like it felt very visceral to me. But I think now I have like the support system around me and stuff to deal with these hard things. So I could look in the mirror. But maybe a year and a half ago, when we were like cutely toying with unaliving ourselves, it would have maybe been a mistake.
Totally.
And it's an interesting thing because I feel like people don't really think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like thought of that question earlier today. I was like, damn, like it's a good question to think about.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I would.
That's valid.
You know, I mean, I've also been going to therapy and like I love going to therapy. It can be hard some days, obviously, but I feel like, at least for me, and here's where you kind of just have to like know yourself and your limits. And I feel like for me right now, it would not be a good thing. I feel like I'd get hung up on whatever it shows me and get depressed about it.
Yeah, because if you couldn't like get to it like on a certain like time frame.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget to think about that.
Yeah. Because I mean, it also reminds me of the case where people are like, oh, if you could read minds, would you?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
People really think about that?
It was like a fun, like, conversation question, I guess, I got a lot growing up. Like, if you had a superpower, what would it be? Kind of adjacent thing.
You'd have to be an idiot to pick mind reading. Okay, sorry. That's not the point of the podcast.
No, but it's, like, so wild because, like, when I was, like, a teen and, like, in high school, I was like, dude, I wish I could desperately read minds.
Oh, wow.
Which is really bizarre. But mostly it's because I had my own issues back then was that I felt out of control and I wanted to control others.
Right.
Because people were hurting me and I wanted to control their actions.
Right.
So I was like,
or at least be able to like predict it better.
Yeah. And so I was like, if I could read their minds, I could be more prepared.
Right.
You know? So like definitely I would not want to read minds now.
Yeah.
That's too personal.
Well, you can't
yeah, you can't unhear or whatever.
Yeah, you couldn't unsee those images.
Yeah, totally.
And I would imagine, and I guess we're showing that I don't trust a lot of humanity.
Yeah.
You would see a lot of things just from passerbys, whatever, that would make you feel unsafe in the world.
Totally. And, like, as a 16-year-old, I didn't think of it that way.
No,
but,
totally.
Like, but
I think those questions, if you take them too seriously, and I always have been that person, like, I'm very obnoxious about it. I, like, get, like, weird about any of them. If you take those questions pretty seriously, it's like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole other world to think about.
Totally. Yeah, because I just remember being so adamant when I was a teen of being like, I wish I could read minds.
No, totally.
And now I'm like, I absolutely don't want to have that superpower. But also, just like I said where I'm at in my life, I think it would fuck me up.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's wise to know. I do think, however, so I'm in a weird position with my job.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm an artist.
Full-time artist era.
Where I think about a lot of these things a lot because I type little captions and things or like do voiceovers and things.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I have a Mirror of Erisid product, the little photo frame, and then like the pin board. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that can be very tongue in cheek. Mm-hmm. Like the pin board, it's like, oh, you never, you know, all you want is more pins, you know? Mm-hmm. Then you need this, but like, okay, Rachel, you know, it's very tongue in cheek. But like, it also can be pretty serious when I'm thinking about these. And it's kind of funny because I feel like outside the context of the podcast, sometimes I'm like, okay, like, shut up. But something I've thought about a lot is you could use the mirror as a tool, and I've written about this before. You could use the mirror as a tool to remind yourself of what's really important in life.
Yeah.
Because, like, if your end goal is, like, I don't know, finding your soulmate, right?
Yeah, a very basic one that a lot of us probably desire.
I think ultimately most human desires come down to a similar thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Ron's and Harry's are really similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The love of their mother.
Yes.
Ow. I'm hurting myself.
Issues.
Oh, I'm hurting myself. It's fine. But like, okay, so say that's your one, the soulmate. Yeah. If you're getting really caught up in like climbing a toxic corporate ladder, you're actually moving further and further away from what your true goal is just because you're stuck in this like feedback loop.
Totally.
And I think like seeing that and reminding yourself of that could help snap you out of like what's actually important, what's not.
Yeah. It's like how I said earlier with like hope and being like a refocusing like tool. It would totally be like that. And I think that would be beneficial for a lot of people if you chose, I mean, again, it really just comes down to personal preference if you would look or not, but there's so many benefits to looking. It's like a double-edged sword. There's benefits and also like warnings. You know?
Oh yeah, no, I think at least as a thought experiment.
No, as a thought experience, it would be really cool to look to like for those kinds of things.
Even
and
if
learn
you're
more about yourself.
Absolutely, even if you're in the magical world, the chance of you being able to look in the Mirror of Erisid are not high. It's one of those magical objects where like it's not like a vanishing cabinet. They're not making a ton of these. You have to, like, it's a very ancient piece of work and piece of magic that I don't know if there's more than one.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like there's only one.
Yeah,
and it only
at least
was
heavily
like
implied.
At Hogwarts for like.
It was brought here for this specific thing.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, like even in the wizarding world, it's kind of mostly a thought experiment because most people will never have, like, it's a privilege to be able to look in the Mirror of Erisid in a lot of ways.
Totally.
And Dumbledore's like using it as a trick. No shade, because it was a very important task, but like that's funny. I wonder where it was before.
I know, that would be so cool to know. I also guess like another thing I think it would be interesting to talk about is Harry feels like, so Harry asked Dumbledore like what he sees in the mirror, and Dumbledore says, I see new socks, you know, and makes a little quip about, I wanted socks for Christmas and everyone gave me books, you know. Yeah. And Harry,
every year.
Yeah, every year. Them. And Harry goes like, I have a feeling he's being untruthful. Yeah. Or like hiding something. Yeah. And because we've read the series, know what we know, like we could theorize all day about what he sees.
I actually have a really cool headcanon.
Sure, let's go.
So everyone says it's Ariana. Yeah. And to be fair, the fan art slaps for that.
Yeah, of course. I believe it.
However, I think he sees Harry surviving.
Yeah, that's
because he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing, raising him like a pig for the slaughter. But as we know, Dumbledore has this plan where he's like, in the first year, it's not really fully formulated, but like so at least in later years, I think this would be what he sees, Harry surviving.
Totally.
Because I think he's putting these things into places and he's trying his absolute best, but he doesn't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
There's still a very high chance that Harry will just die. Mm-hmm. And I think he loves Harry, and I think he doesn't want that to happen again. So I actually think that his has to do with Harry.
Yeah, I would imagine so, at least like at this point in the book. Like Harry being a thing, I would imagine it would be like Ariana.
Oh, totally. Or like Grindelwald not being who he was.
Yeah, I was totally thinking like also Grindelwald did as well.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm. But I also, what's kind of funny about it too is like, if Dumbledore was not lying, that means he was incredibly happy.
Yeah.
Because, if you're the happiest man in the world, the only thing you would see is yourself, your reflection.
Yeah.
Maybe he just really needs more socks. Okay, I don't believe that.
No, yeah.
But I think that that's a funny thing to think about is like, okay, so even if it's a lie.
Yeah.
I made a TikTok about this once. Some people got very pressed.
Okay.
Okay, but I actually think Harry's kind of an ass for never getting Dumbledore's socks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like, this is kind of a funny thing to end on, but, like, literally, he says he always wants socks, and I think, I don't think it was actually what he saw in his mirror. No way.
Yeah, no, I totally don't believe he saw that.
But I don't think that it was, like, he doesn't like socks. I think there was, like, elements of truth to, like, him wanting socks.
Totally.
Especially where he collects knitting patterns. I don't know if you remember that, but, like, in the 6th book, he's collecting knitting patterns from Muggle households. Like, he's kind of a quirky guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like he would really like socks. And so I just kind of feel like, especially in those later years, I don't know, at some point, he could have given Dumbledore socks.
He could have given Dumbledore socks or hats or whatever that, like, Dobby made a ton of. Or, like, Hermione gave and kept dropping off for the house elves, and Dobby just was collecting them all.
Those were unhinged. I don't think Dumbledore needed those, but yes.
No,
and Harry even buys socks for Dobby.
Yeah.
To help collect. And so wouldn't it have been cool if he got Dumbledore some socks?
Yeah.
This is a missed opportunity. But this is this is a perfect example of how people will tell us what they want, and we won't listen to them.
Period. We should end on that note.
I think that was it.
Mic drop.
Slap. Anyway, didn't want to actually like startle them with a loud noise.
Actually do that.
It was so funny that we were on the same wavelength with that.
Yeah.
This was a really great episode.
Dude, this was so great. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So our plan is we'll do every other episode. Mm-hmm. So we'll mix it up with like either our book club book or something else. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have one of these episodes in this mini series that we're doing.
Yeah. And then I think it'd be fun to even like beyond that just do like more Harry Potter miniseries of deep diving into other things.
Oh, I agree. Like, there needs to be more Harry Potter.
Totally.
And I think in the past we've made the mistake where we think we have to tackle, like...
many things in one
Severus
episode.
Snape.
Yeah.
In one episode. And it's like, oh, this is, like, too big of a topic.
Yeah.
So, like, this almost, in some ways... I mean, we did bring in things from other chapters. Absolutely.
Totally, because it's relevant.
It was relevant. But it also is very narrow in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. So look forward to our Potter series.
Heck yeah.
And please. Okay, so we're new on YouTube. Aren't we so cute?
We are so
Do you know how hard it is to edit these?
Everyone give Rachel a round of applause.
Thank you.
Give applause. If you watch it on YouTube, applause emoji in the comments.
Yes. Oh yeah, comments.
like
hit the like button. Subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify, do those same things. You know, I adore all of you so much wherever you listen to us. We added YouTube mostly for marketing. Yeah. So
I love that I love anyone who listens to us, honestly. It makes me feel so good.
No,
and
it's really fun.
You know, that people like hearing what we have to say. You know, it's very fun.
It is fun. There's actually more people than it's kind of wild. Mm-hmm. But now we're taking it more seriously. So we'll just see where we can grow with it.
Totally. Before we end, as per usual, Rachel, do you have any FanCorner things to announce at the moment?
The way my entire body panicked and was like,
oh, no, it's how we always end.
I know. I just was like, I can't remember a single thing I've worked on in my entire life. Well, it's the Christmas season.
Oh, so ornaments.
Yeah, so I have a ton of ornaments. And the little, I kind of like alluded to this last episode, but the little leaf gaming creatures.
Oh, yes.
Make the noise. Haha. Yeah.
Or it's like
yeah.
I mean, they make a couple different sounds, but yeah.
I'm painting one tomorrow.
Oh,
So it'll be a set of 8 ornaments.
Cute.
Which is wild. That's like a
yeah.
big launch for me, honestly.
Totally.
It's like probably not even coming out till the freaking end of November, but who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm like headed the right direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those are the product announcements.
Amazing.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you have a very magical day.